The movie begins with a red object headed toward the Earth, which falls into a forest. Shortly after, an unsuspecting deer in the woods is grabbed by an alien tentacle. In the next scene, a couple is seen making their way to camp in the same woods. Harry and Ruth have been dating for 6 years now. They find a diner, where a kid asks them if they saw the red star too. Unbothered, Harry and Ruth enjoy their meal and leave for the trail track. Anxiety-prone Ruth appears uncomfortable, but Harry reassures her and they enter the woods. At a point, Ruth feels like someone is following them, but she resumes walking, after which we hear a sharp exhaled breath some feet behind her. When they find a good spot, they set up camp and make food. Later that night, Ruth leaves the tent to attend nature's call, when she notices a deer staring back at her from some distance. Just then, Harry shows up, which scares Ruth, after which they return to the tent. The next day, Ruth and Harry go backpacking through the woods. Harry brings Ruth to a beautiful spot overlooking the sea. While Ruth enjoys the view, Harry declares his love and proposes to Ruth. However, she starts hyperventilating and has a panic attack. Once she's better, she rejects the proposal and reminds him that they had an agreement at the start of their relationship about never getting married. As it happens, Ruth's parents had a messy divorce which left her with anxiety and poor mental health. Heartbroken, Harry walks away, and Ruth realizes she messed up. They return to the campsite, but the tension escalates between the two. The next morning, Ruth wakes up to coffee and a note from Harry, who's gone for a walk. In an attempt to call her therapist, Ruth drifts away from the campsite and comes across a deer's corpse with its head split in half. Just then, Harry shows up and comforts her. They notice it is covered in weird black stuff, which Harry assumes might be some kind of fungus. They return to the camp, and after supper, they reconcile. The morning after, Ruth wanders around as Harry cooks breakfast. On her way, she finds the exact flowers she and Harry were talking about before coming to the woods. As she picks one, she notices a cave behind her. When she enters it, she finds a weird blue puddle. Just then, she hears some rustling behind her, and as she turns around, she screams in terror. Meanwhile, Harry starts to get worried as he feels that Ruth has been gone too long. He goes around calling her name and finally finds her in the woods. She seems a little strange and fixated as they return to their camp and go on with their day. Later that evening, Harry notices himself alone in the tent, so he grabs a lantern and heads to the woods looking for Ruth. Suddenly, she springs up out of nowhere and tells him that she heard an animal nearby. They return to the camp, but Ruth lays awake the whole night. As Harry packs up their stuff, he tries to make small talk with Ruth, but she appears utterly preoccupied. Then she apologizes to him for being weird and asks Harry to propose to her again. She asks him to take her to the same scenic overlook and accepts his proposal. After wearing the ring, she kisses him, and then suddenly, she pushes him off the cliff, and he dies by falling on a rock. After that, Ruth runs away to escape, but she gets lost in the woods and faints due to dehydration. Another couple, Vivian and Ray, find her on the forest floor and tend to her. Vivian tries to talk to Ruth about how she ended up there all alone, but Ruth does not remember anything. While the couple talks about calling 911 for Ruth, she grabs their knife. This worries Ray and Vivian, especially when Ruth points it in their direction. In the next moment, Harry appears behind them walking through the woods looking for Ruth. While Ruth and Vivian run, Ray tries to confront Harry, who cuts off Ray's hand with a blade-like appendage and then kills him. While hiding, Ruth tells Vivian that the man following them is not Harry but an impostor. However, when Vivian hears Ray in trouble, she turns back but is horrified to see her husband's head sliced in half by a black tentacle coming out of Harry. Vivian tries to run, but the alien Harry cuts her back open and threatens to kill her if Ruth doesn't come out of her hiding spot. Ruth gives in and comes out, after which Harry stabs Vivian in her head and kills her. Then he aims his sharp blade tentacle at Ruth and asks her how she figured out his true identity. It is then revealed that when Ruth went into the cave earlier and found the blue puddle, she also found Harry's dead body nearby with his head slit and the entire body covered in a cocoon. This is how she realized that the guy she was now with was an impostor. Hearing this, the alien tries to kill her, but it is unable to, since it has absorbed Harry's love for Ruth. This new unknown feeling is strange for it, and as it tries to adapt, the alien reveals that it has come to survey the planet before his race can officially invade it. Ruth tries to run away from the alien, but it reminds her that it is a 100% replication of Harry who cares about her and won't let anything hurt her. The alien even shows her its spaceship and asks Ruth to accompany it to a new world. Ruth notices a knife in its pocket and remembers how Vivian mentioned that there are sharks in shallow waters these days. So Ruth plays along and agrees to go with the impostor Harry. But when she gets a chance, she stabs it in the chest and runs into the water. The alien follows her, but its blood attracts the sharks and one of them attacks it. As Ruth swims to the shore and makes a run for it, the alien Harry finds its way to the shore with the severed head of the shark, while the shark bite on its body heals itself. The next morning, Ruth finds Ray's and Vivian's campsite and looks around for food, after which she has a panic attack and ends up consuming her last anxiety pill. Suddenly, she is attacked by a tentacle and the alien captures her. When Ruth gains consciousness, she finds herself in a cocoon in the cave. The alien is disappointed that Ruth gave up on her chance to a new life, so it tries to absorb Ruth to protect her from the incoming invasion. However, it also absorbs her anxieties and is overwhelmed by Ruth's emotions and pain from her traumatic childhood. In desperation, the alien reaches out for Ruth's anxiety medication, but finds the bottle empty and becomes incapacitated. The real Ruth uses all her might to break free from the cocoon and channels her experience of self-loathing and self-doubt to render the alien helpless. Once she has the alien subdued on the floor, Ruth smashes its head with a rock several times. Next, Ruth rummages through the alien's pockets for car keys. As Ruth runs away with her stuff, we see the alien head slowly restructuring itself. Ruth finally finds her way to Harry's Jeep parked alongside Ray's and Vivian's car. As she starts driving, the song on the radio begins to distort, and suddenly the alien speaks to her through it. It mocks her mental issues and warns her that she won't be able to escape what's coming. Ignoring it, Ruth turns off the radio and keeps driving, and we see multiple red objects falling from the sky, which means that the aliens are arriving for the invasion. And with that, the movie ends. We hope you enjoyed our recap. Watch the next videos on the screen and don't forget to subscribe for more amazing recaps. See you in the next one.